All right, this is chapter 3, lesson 3, subtract integers. Okay, so when I subtract integers, okay, I'm really adding its additive inverse, which sounds a little confusing, okay, but we'll go over it together. So, P minus Q equals P plus a negative Q. So basically what you're doing is you're rewriting subtraction problems so that they are addition problems, okay? So look familiar to something you've already done. So let's look at an example. I have 4 minus 9. Well, I can rewrite 4 minus 9 so it says 4 plus negative 9. This is the same thing. Well, you've already done this, right? We did it last lesson. So now I can take them. They're different signs, so I subtract. 9 minus 4 gives me 5. 9's bigger and it's negative, so I get a negative 5. Okay, another example. 7 minus a negative 10. Okay, so I add the additive inverse. So 7, the minus becomes a plus, and I do the opposite, the additive inverse of what's the next number. So negative 10, the additive inverse is 10. So I get 7 plus 10, which equals 17. Okay? So let's look at some other examples. So the first example I have is find 8 minus 13. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 8 minus 13 and rewrite it. So I'm adding an additive inverse. So I get 8 plus negative 13. These are different signs, so I subtract them. 13 minus 8 gives me 5. 13 is bigger and it's negative, so my answer is negative 5. I also have negative 10 minus a negative 7. Okay, add the additive inverse. Negative 10 stays the same. The minus sign becomes a positive sign. Negative 7, its additive inverse, is positive 7. So I get negative 10 plus 7, right? Different signs, so I subtract them. 10 minus 7 is 3. 10's bigger, 10's negative, so my answer is negative. Okay. Another example I have, find 1 minus negative 2. Okay, so I'm going to add its additive inverse. So this becomes 1 plus 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. They're the same sign, so I don't have to do anything. Both positive, so my answer is positive. Okay. The other thing that I want to do is I want to evaluate x minus y if x equals negative 6 and y equals negative 5. So x is negative 6. Y is negative 5, so I have negative 6 minus a negative 5. Negative 6 stays the same. Subtraction sign becomes a plus, and I have the additive inverse of negative 5, which is 5. Negative 6 plus 5, different signs, so I subtract. 6 minus 5 equals 1. 6 is bigger, so I get negative 1. Okay. So there are a couple of try it problems down here. Go ahead, pause the video, try out the try it problems. When you're done, we will come back and look at the answers together. All right, now that you've tried the try it problems, let's go over the answers together. The first one I have is find 6 minus 12. Okay, so I'm going to take my original problem. Six minus 12. I'm going to take 6, change this to a plus, and add the additive inverse. So I get 6 plus negative 12. These are opposite signs, so I subtract. 12 minus 6 gives me 6. 12 is bigger, so I get a negative 6. So 6 minus 12 is negative 6. Okay. Then I have find negative 20 minus 15. So I'm going to add the additive inverse. Both are negative, so I add them together. 20 plus 15 gives me 35. Since they're both negative, my sum is also negative. So I get negative 35. Okay. Next, I'm going to evaluate each expression where A equals 5, B equals negative 8, and C equals negative 9. So the first one I have is B minus 10. Okay. Okay. And we said B equals negative 8. So I'm going to write negative 8 minus 10. It's my original problem. So then I'm going to take negative 8 plus my additive inverse, which is also negative 10 becomes, nope, that's right the first time. 10 becomes negative 10. That's the additive inverse. So negative 8 plus negative 10, same sign, I add them together, I get 18. Negative, they're both negative, so my answer is negative. So negative 18. So B minus 10, if B is negative 8, gives me negative 18. Next one I have is C minus A. Okay, where C is negative 9 and A equals 5. So I get negative 9 minus 5, which is the same thing as saying negative 9 plus a negative 5. Okay, both have negative signs, so same sign, I add them together. 9 plus 5 is 14. Since they're both negative, my answer is also negative, so I get negative 14. So C minus A, negative 14. Then I have 4 minus negative 12. So 4 plus 12, same sign. 12 plus 4 is 16. Okay. Then I have find negative 15 minus a negative 5. So I get negative 15 plus 5, different signs, so I subtract. 15 minus 5 is 10. 15 is bigger, so I get a negative 10. And that is the end of lesson 3.